Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the Outback, so let's just get right into it. We are going to go on a road trip. We're going to go hit up Crater Lake in a couple days here, and I'm just doing some basic checks on the car, checking the oil, the coolant, all the other fluids, tire pressure, and of course the lug nut torque. So I recently rotated the tires on this, and before going on a road trip, it's always a good idea to check that the car is in spec. That way you don't have any unplanned pit stops or anything like that while you're on the road. So for today's video, we're going to be checking the lug nut torque specs. So I set them to around 90 foot-pounds if I remember correctly, but I wanted to use this as an opportunity to use these things right here. So big shout out to OMT, Orion Motor Tech. I never knew these things existed, and believe me, if I had known about these, then I would have had them a long time ago. All right, let me go ahead and show you guys what's inside. So inside the case, you get 10 of these limiting extension bars, and they range from 65 foot-pounds all the way to 150 foot-pounds as indicated by the thickness. So you could tell that each of them is a little different in size, and obviously the skinnier they are, the less torque that it'll allow you to use. So each bar has both foot-pounds and Newton meters for convenience, and again, these are 1/2 inch. So you might be wondering, what are torque limiting extension bars? And I have a solid definition that I pulled from good old Google. So torque limiting extensions, or torque sticks, act as a torsion device by flexing once a certain amount of torque is applied onto the fastener that they are tightening down. This helps prevent from over tightening the fastener when using an impact wrench. So I did forget to mention that these are mainly used for impact wrenches or impact guns. These are intended to save you time by using the impact gun on a specific torque. So basically, let's say you're torquing your lug nuts, and a lot of cars are 90 foot-pounds. Instead of guessing how tight the lug nuts are when you're in a pinch, you can simply use one of these, attach it on here, and hit the lug nut just a couple times, and that should give you roughly 90 foot-pounds of torque as this thing will flex. And I still recommend torquing the lug nuts right after you use these, but this is, like I said, intended to save you time. So let's say your car's up on a lift and you need to put the wheels back on. You just hit it with this and then drop the car and then torque it from there using an actual torque wrench. So like I said, I never knew these things existed. It would have saved me a whole lot of time throughout the years of working on the car, whether that's rotating tires, switching to snow tires, and back onto summer tires and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. I want to put them to the test. I know it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly 90 foot-pounds, but if you're at 85 or a little over 90, that's fine too. That's what the torque wrench is for. Again, this is more to prevent you from over torquing your lug nuts if you use an impact gun. So let's go ahead and put one of them to the test on the Outback here. So basically, this is how I would use this in a real life example. Like I said, I want to make sure that the car is torqued properly. So I'm going to be using this impact with this, and then using my big torque wrench over here to make sure we got the right specs. I have my smaller one, but I think it's acting up, so I want to be sure I have the right torque specs, so we're going to be using this one today. All right, hopefully you guys have a good visual on this. So what I'm going to do is just take one and loosen it up. So let's say your car's on the lift and you're ready to put the wheels back on. So this is exactly how I would use this thing right here. I'm gonna first start by giving it a couple threads by hand. Should be good. Let's go ahead and put this 90 foot-pound limiting bar onto the impact, which is also 1/2 inch. So it works out perfectly. And this isn't ideal, but I couldn't find my socket that would fit this directly. So we're using an adapter just to make it work with this thing. But just as an FYI, this is a temporary solution. So what I'm gonna do is give it a couple hits. And then how I'm gonna test it is we'll set the torque wrench just a little under 90. So it's just under 90, if you guys can see that. So basically, once I torque this thing, it shouldn't move, or it should move only by a little bit. So let's see if it clicks. So that moved just a little bit. I could probably hit it with the impact a little longer. So let's do a couple more lug nuts just for good measure. All right, so completely took this one off. I'm gonna thread it on there a little bit by hand. Connect this thing to the limiting bar, and let's do it. All right, let's put the torque wrench back on, and 90 foot-pounds roughly. That is spot on. That's really surprising. That's spot on. So let's do it again. Right at 90. So that's actually pretty cool. So basically you just got to run the impact just a little longer, and it gives you roughly to where the specified amount is. So in this case, 90 foot-pounds. All right, so I'm doubting myself just a little bit. So let's go ahead and do another test, but this time with 80 foot-pounds. So we'll do the same exact thing. Remove one of the lug nuts. Okay, thread it on there by hand just a little bit. Then we'll use the 80 foot-pound bar. Okay. Then we'll drive that in. So now the torque wrench is still at 90 foot-pounds, so meaning it should have a little bit of rotation. Oh, wow. I mean, that's pretty spot on from what I could tell. And again, I'll show you guys that the torque wrench is right at 90 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of the lug nuts on the car, and then we'll go ahead, go back to the workbench, and then close out the video. All right, so just finished torquing down all of the lug nuts, and if you guys can't tell, it's super hot in here, dripping in sweat. Let's go put you guys back on the workbench and give you my final thoughts on these torque limiting extension bars. So like I said, had I known about this tool, I would have gotten it a long time ago. What I'm saying is this is nothing new. It's just new to me since I've never had a set or used anything like this before. So what I like about it is that it reduces the chances of you stripping your stud if you're using a impact gun. So again, if you're doing a manual ratchet, then this is gonna be useless because it's not gonna have enough force for it to flex. So you wanna use something powerful so that it does flex at the specified amount right here. So I know they say that these are only for lug nuts, but I think you can use it for a variety of things. But again, in my opinion, this is just to save you a little bit of time. And I always recommend hitting it with the torque wrench right after. But having these is cool, especially because I have the quick jacks, so I lift the car up pretty often, you know, if I do tire rotations. And if I have something like this, then I don't have to second guess how long to use the impact on the lug nut, because I think that impact is good for 250 pounds. So I'm not quite sure like how long that is in seconds that I need to do it for. But again, this set right here reduces the risk of potentially over tightening your lug nuts. So the torque specs for the Outback's lug nuts are 89 or 88 foot-pounds or something like that. So you might be wondering, what if your torque specs are 85 foot-pounds? So what I would do in that situation is grab the 80 and just hit it with the impact and then torque it afterwards. This will ensure that you have at least 80 foot-pounds of torque on your lug nuts, so it'll be safe for you to drop the car before finalizing the torque specs with the torque wrench. So I don't think I went over exactly what specs they have, but they have a 65, a 75, of course the 80, the 90, 100, 110, 20, 130, 140, and then of course 150 foot-pounds. I don't have a way to test this, otherwise I would. I don't know what bolt I have uses 150 foot-pounds, but if this is accurate with 80 or 90 foot-pounds, then I'm sure the rest of it is just as good. I had to do a second test because, like I said, I was doubting the 90 foot-pound spec. But when I tested it with the 80 and then hit it with the 90 torque wrench, it turned just enough, meaning it was at around 80 foot-pounds, and then the torque wrench got it up to 90, so which is good. That means it limited the torque to 80 foot-pounds. So I hope that makes sense. So do I think this is worth it? Absolutely. I don't know if I would spend a few $100s on this, but for the price point that these guys are at, the OMT brand, definitely, in my opinion, they are worth it. So if you guys are interested in a set of these, I will link the product in the description so you guys can check it out for yourselves. Again, I could see how these would save you time and give you a peace of mind when using an impact on a bolt. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.